live stream, I should say, of the Square and Compass podcast. I hope everybody is doing well. Thank you all for being here. Please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's give it a few and let's see who joins. I had a great time this morning doing my 85 push-ups as part of the Push for Better challenge. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting me in that challenge. Much appreciated. Now, tomorrow is the 21st of February. Normally, the 21st of every month, I try to do something special. Very often, it is a 24-hour live stream, a content marathon, some combination of the above. I think tomorrow I'm going to start streaming at 2 p.m. and just go for the entire, as long as I can. We'll make it kind of like a content telethon. I may not go for the entirety of the 24 hours, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So expect a unofficial or a pick your term, a February 21st special live stream. And I hope to see as many people there as want to join me. Again, I don't often stream on Saturdays. However, the 21st of every month, I try to do something special. So let's see about tomorrow, just doing a, like I said, a content or a content marathon, a live stream marathon, and see how it goes. That will be the 21st, starting at 2 p.m. And in the meantime, let's just wait to see who joins. On Fridays, I don't have any specific subjects or topics. Rather, it's just wait and see who wants to join, who wants to hang out, and who wants to chat. So please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you to everybody who's been commenting on my channel. I really, really appreciate it. The more people we have commenting, then the more the algorithm appreciates it and supports it. So and we are all, at the end of the day, subject to the algorithm, for better or worse. Well, we'll see what happens. Obviously, first and foremost, everybody should go and support the Winter Olympics. However, if you get the chance, then by all means, I hope that you will consider supporting the Square and Compass promotions, or sorry, supporting us, but at the same time, obviously support the Olympics. Also on March, hold on just 1 second, let me double check. Just swallowed like a burp there. That's always fun. Hold on just 1 sec. Let me see. Make sure I got the dates right. March 11th and March 12th, 2026. I'm taking part in the Medium pub crawl. As you know, I publish written content promoting the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. I put that on medium.com. They're doing what's going to be really, really fun, a pub crawl where basically it's through Zoom. You attend a whole bunch of different virtual rooms with different authors and content creators from Medium. They talk about their work. I'll talk about my work. I'll get to network with a whole bunch of different people. It will be a lot of fun. So I hope that you guys will consider joining me for that as well. I'll be streaming some of the events. I'll maybe even host an X space. Maybe even do some live blogging on Medium. Who knows? Could be a lot of fun. But that's March 10th and 11th. And then obviously March 28th, we have a big event coming up. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a community resources fair at the Windsor Masonic Temple from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Stay tuned for more information about that, especially if you happen to be from Windsor, Essex, or even Detroit. and you want to make your way down, it would be awesome to see you guys. All right, for the time being, though, let's wait to see who joins. No specific topics. Rather, we're just going to wait to see who finds us and what you guys want to chat about. And thank you again for everybody who joined this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you for everybody who's leaving comments on the videos. That helps out big time as well. So thank you. I don't know, Lee Partridge, but I've always been very wary of TikTok because of all the political discussions around it. Even though I try my best to be active on as many different um, venues and mediums and channels as I can be, TikTok is one I've always kind of avoided. I mean, having said that, um, I do have a TikTok page. I never use it. I think I have one video up there right now. I always just found it too political. I don't want to get involved in it. I mostly use YouTube as well. I mean, YouTube is the majority of my content. I also have a Twitch account. I have a Discord account. I have a whole bunch of different accounts, but I primarily I use YouTube as well, and I find it's good. I enjoy it. I appreciate YouTube very much for what it allows me to do. I appreciate the technology behind it for what it allows me to do. So, I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges about being on the online creator space is trying to figure out not just how, like with the different venues, but also the strengths and weaknesses of different venues, and then using those different venues in order to like how to curate or manage your content in such a way that it takes advantage of the strengths and the weaknesses of the different mediums, right? Because what works well on YouTube might not work as well on Instagram, which might not work as well on TikTok, which might not work as well on X, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And what works well on X may not work very well on YouTube or heck, on Blue Sky for that matter. So a big part of it is figuring out how to customize your content depending on which medium, which app you're using. And that's interestingly enough, that's a very decent question for Freemasonry as well, right? Which is when it comes to the different, our different membership, is it really fair or even possible to do a one size fits all approach to Freemasonry? Or do we have to try as much as we can to curate or modify our content depending on the membership that we have? 188 subscribers, good for you. Keep up the good work. Just keep trying, just keep putting in the effort. Consistency over time, I think, is a really good approach to take. So that would be my advice anyways, for whatever it's worth. And thank you, as always, for being here. Let's give it a bit of time and let's see who joins. No specific topics planned today. We're just going to hang out. We're going to wait to see who joins. I enjoy live streams. I find they're a lot of fun, Lee Partridge. I enjoy them very much. So it's one of those things where they have again, when I talk about different mediums, in the same way, even within the same platform, there's different mediums, right? What works well on a live stream may not work as well on a pre-recorded interview. What works well on a pre-recorded interview may not work as well on a short. What works as well on a short, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is really tough. That's why, I'm not pretending like I'm in the middle of the coal mines, risking black lung or anything like that. But it is absolutely the case that, there's challenges to this job, as with any job. I think one of the biggest challenges is figuring out the best way to modify or curate your content to make it work on a variety of different sites. Even Podbean to YouTube is different. So, Lee, all right, Lee. Phil Holland, I feel like that's a song, but I can't think of where it's from. What is that song of which you speak? And for now, we're just waiting to see who jumps in the chat to say hello. Well, nice try, JG. Please hit like and subscribe. Destroyer, I have heard of Family Guy, of course. What's going on, Destroyer? Thank you for being here. Everything's good. Please hit like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. If you're already subscribed, let me know how you're doing. Why are Mason bees called Mason? Let's see. So mason bees are called mason bees because they construct their nests using mud or other similar masonry materials. The solitary bees act as masons by collecting mud to create, separate, and seal individual protective blood cells inside hollow twigs. Very, very cool. There you go. I mean, I may do some questions about mason bees. Well, thank you, Lee. I mean, I say everybody comment and subscribe because I never know who's going to be on the stream or not on the stream. And so my goal is always to make sure that I, repeat it at least a few times just to make sure we have people, because it's very possible that, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very possible that somebody may jump on for 30 seconds or a minute, not stick around, right? I want to make sure that in those cases, they hear me say, please like and subscribe. Well, we don't roll around in the mud. However, the mason bees do. We use stone, which I guess in a sense is from the mud. So you could argue that we're certainly excavating within mud. I'm doing well. How is your day going? I'm going to call you Pie, because I don't know how to pronounce Piyush. I think you're trying to say push. I'm going to call you Pie. I think you're new to the stream. Pie, if you are, please hit like and subscribe. Well, we use stones. You're not the first person to make that particular pun, in fairness, but I hope nonetheless you're doing well. Please take a moment. Let me know how you do it. If you have any thoughts on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. I talked yesterday about the court decision within the United Kingdom that basically upheld the Metropolitan Police's new policy, which requires members of any hierarchical organization, including Freemasonry, and it seems focused on Freemasonry, to declare either current or past membership within Freemasonry. There was an assurance made that the declarations of membership would be protected, which means it does not become public, nor, is there a large number of staff who will know of the information or the declaration, which I think is appropriate. I did not see any information about the actual way they keep the declaration secure, which would be my next question. It's fine to say a select number have access to the information, but if the information is not properly guarded or not properly protected and it's easily hackable or easily discoverable by those without authorization, I think that's a problem. However, in general, I've said this before, conflict of interest is a real thing. It's a legitimate concern. And because it's a legitimate concern, it's important that we as Freemasons recognize that, understand that, and try to work within, the policies of the Metropolitan Police Force. Yeah, Dad, you were telling me that before. It would have been interesting to, I never met your dad, obviously, or my grandfather, I should say. He passed away before I was born, but would have been interesting to meet him and learn about his beehives and how he kept them. At least you guys always knew you had fresh honey, so that's good. Well, I am not a Luciferian, Travis Lundaby, but I doubt you'll believe me one way or the other. So I guess you'll just have to make up your own mind. Although 5 is pretty decent amount of honeybees or hives. Because that would have been really interesting to learn more about those hives and how he did them. Did he have them up until he passed away? Like, did he keep them the whole time? Or did he just have them, shouldn't say just, but did he have them when you were younger? Um, and for now, we're going to give it a bit more time, wait to see who joins. No real plans for this stream, just hanging out, waiting to see who jumps in the chat to say hello. Well, whether he was a Mason or not is questionable. It's Nimrod, right? And some people argue he is the first Freemason, or the first stonemason, excuse me, not Freemason, the first stonemason. But he didn't use stone to build the Tower of Babel. He used mud and clay with straw. So whether you consider him to be a stonemason or not, I guess is up to you to decide. But it would be Nimrod. Freemasons aren't sacrificing anyone, random people or otherwise. Well, so they didn't, Mr. Keeps, have the same craft masonry rituals. For example, the third degree is an invention really of 1730s, 1740s. I forget the exact date when it came about, and it's a invention exclusively of speculative Freemasonry. The third degree in I think it was 1735, 1736. Let's see how close I got it. Oh, I was wrong. It was introduced between 1723 and 1730. Before that, there was 2 degrees, entered apprentice and fellow craft. Within the stone masons or the cathedral builders, there really was a single ceremony. That was the fellow craft or the second degree. You joined and you were an apprentice, and then you moved on to get your second degree, and that was a ceremonial time. However, certainly, I've said this before, like much of the symbolism, the majority of symbolism within speculative Freemasonry developed from stonemasons, including the cathedral builders. The square and compasses, for example, predate speculative Freemasonry. I think the earliest example of the square and compasses is 13 something. First example of square, let me double check, and compass symbol. No, something earlier than that. I'm trying to find it. Anyways, I mean, certainly many symbols within 1580. There it is, 1580 to 1620 in Peru. You see an example of the square and compasses. The G was added much later. I think it was 1795 or something to that effect, 1796. But the certainly they would be very different, right? The cathedral rituals or stone Masonic rituals as compared to speculative Masonic rituals. The addition of the third degree obviously is very different, and maybe the most major difference. But the symbolism carries through, right? The tools would be recognized by our stonemason ancestors. Much of the symbolism would be recognized. Much of the offices would be recognized. Even the titles of entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason would all be recognized as well. Hope that made sense. Hope that was clear. Mr. Keeps. So again, no, you weren't raised back in the days, Mr. Keeps. You weren't raised to a master mason. You could become a master mason, which was somebody who would train others, right? They definitely had master masons, but they did not have a raising, quote unquote, ceremony in the same way that we have one in speculative Freemasonry. The exclusive ceremony we know of was the second degree fellow craft within craft masonry or within stone masonry. They had the titles, though. They had apprentices, they had fellow craft, and they had masters. but there was no quote unquote raising ceremony in the same sense that we have it today. Sorry, Shark, Freemasonry is not worshiping Satan. Freemasonry does not worship any religious entities. We have neither Masonic gods nor Masonic devils. CR7, I never talk about rituals specifically. I will say I've been through many Masonic rituals and witnessed many Masonic rituals. Never have I been shitting any bricks. I've never seen anything that was never did I see anything that was illegal, dangerous, unhygienic for that matter, or against one's civil, religious, or moral responsibilities. We do not believe in the Lord of Light. Freemasons believe in different things depending on the Mason, right? Freemasons believe in different things depending on the Mason. Some are Christian, some are Hindu, some are Sikh, some are Muslim, Jewish, Indigenous, or First Nations. Some are like me and more, I guess, spiritual, if you're going to call it that. So it depends. But yeah, there was no third degree within operative Freemasonry. There were Master Masons. There was a 2-degree system, but even then, it seems like there was actually just, to my understanding, a single degree, the apprentice to fellowcraft degree, right? In terms of ceremonies, but you were an apprentice and you moved on to fellowcraft, and it seems that in that case, there was in fact a degree. You became a journeyman as well, right? A journeyman would have been another term for any type of tradesman who traveled for his work. And then again, masters were skilled masons who could train others. And then the third degree, at least in speculative Freemasonry, came about between 1725 and 1730. I'd always assumed a little bit later. Now, the interesting thing about that is, again, there is some debates as to whether there was in fact an operative Masonic Master Mason degree, but I don't think there's any confirmed evidence of it. And again, the earliest carving of the square and compasses came around 1580 in Peru, interestingly enough. So the earliest date for the G, I just looked it up, looks like, according to Google anyways, was in 1796. The term keeping within the compasses existed pre-speculative masonry as well. It can. I mean, you're talking about the checkered floor. It can represent good and evil, duality. I'm a Freemason. Well, I mean, I joined Freemasonry because my dad was a Freemason. Both my grandfathers were Freemasons. I always just assumed I would join. I stayed as a Freemason because I loved it. And because I loved Freemasonry so much. I stuck around, even though it can be a pain in the ass, don't get me wrong. Like anything you love, there's challenges as well. You got to show up when you don't want to. You don't have to, but if you love something, you show up even when you don't want to, when you're tired, when you'd rather take a nap or watch television, you still put in the time and effort to show up because you care and you try your best. Thank you. Awesome, Christ Enlightenment. First of all, good for your grandfather for serving in the military. Nothing but respect for that. And second, for 20 years, good on you. So, Mr. Keeps, by the way, just let me know again when you want that letter, or if you want that letter, and as soon as you want it, I'll send it to you. And did my explanation regarding the operative versus speculative Freemasonry make sense to you, and the addition of the third degree? The Luciferians do not control the Olympics, nor do they control Freemasonry. Freemasonry has no control, quote unquote. That's not what Freemasonry is about, right? Freemasonry does not have a singular place of control. It's decentralized. There is control within Ontario. However, that control does not extend beyond Ontario. Then there's a separate control system and control governance in Manitoba, a separate control system and control governance in France, in Brazil, etc., etc. Well, Google, I was traveling. I was in Chicago, then Glenview, then Illinois, then Ann Arbor. And so I did not have the chance to do my live streams. Having said that, make sure to follow me on social media and make sure to, when you subscribe, turn on your notifications bell. That way, anytime I am doing a new live stream, you'll get the notification immediately. I've said it before, Christ Enlightenment, I think Chicago is the greatest city in the world, in my humble opinion. So I would love to be in West Virginia. To be a Freemason is to be a traveler. There's a reason why tradesmen are called journeymen, right? There's a reason for that. So I would love to come to West Virginia. But Google, make sure you've got your notification bell turned on, so anytime I'm streaming or posting anything, you can find it. What's the insane take that Chicago is the greatest city in the world, or about the third degree? I'm not sure which one is. What's the insane take? I hope that's not true, user. I've never seen any evidence that that's true or heard of that until you said it. That shouldn't be the case. Freemasons are taught to obey the laws of the country in which they live or in which they are traveling. And so, I guess I would say if they are raising it, they shouldn't. And I've never seen any evidence that they are. I'd be amazed if they were. I mean, if the King of England is not going to intervene, nor should he, then certainly the Masons should not intervene. Well, Mr. Keeps, sorry, I got to disagree with you on that one. I mean, again, when I say Chicago is the greatest country in the world, it's no different than me saying my dad is the greatest dad in the world. It's not, sorry, Dad, it's not literally true, because I would hope, Mr. Keeps, that you would consider your dad to be the greatest dad in the world, and if not, then it's like when you're a kid and you buy your dad greatest dad ever shirt. It doesn't literally mean he's the greatest dad in the world. It's a subjective opinion. Rather, what it means is it's a sign of, the fact that you love him. And for whatever reason, when I'm in Chicago, I always am happier than almost anywhere else in the world. Or I'm happier than anywhere else in the world, with the exception of maybe, well, again, Glenview, which is north of Chicago, or maybe sometimes Winnipeg, just because it's where I grew up, right? Having said that, again, I would never want to live in Chicago because I love being Canadian. I love living in Canada. But that doesn't mean in terms of when I visit it, I'm not very happy. There are no Masons in the Epstein files, Corvin. Freemasonry is mentioned 11 times, primarily within historical context, going back 100 years or so. In terms of modern-day Masons, there are no Masons mentioned in the Epstein files, at least to my knowledge and based on my research. The closest I've seen is Bill Clinton, and he was not a Mason. He was de Molay, which is a member of the Masonic Youth Group, but he never became a Freemason. I can't speak for New York. It's been ages. I actually like Los Angeles quite a bit. I've been there once for a 4-week period, 3 weeks actually. And I loved it. Really awesome city. Very cool people. Really awesome Masonic historical context to it. So that's really cool as well. I don't not know what the Trilateral Commission is, but okay. I mean, I hear about it, but I don't actually know how to respond to it. Like, what does it do? How can a lodge move? I searched the Epstein files, never saw any evidence. He's not a Freemason, Epstein. There is no evidence that he was. Nor have I seen any evidence that any of the people going to the island were Freemasons. People can say whatever they want. That doesn't make it true. Um, did he? I've not heard of that. I mean, okay, I'll check the news. Courtney asks, how can a lodge move beyond just business meetings and refresh its members with true philosophical and esoteric educations? I mean, I don't know what you mean by other humans, Sammy. In terms of the question of, because we're all human, unless you're artificial intelligence, in that case, welcome nonetheless, I suppose. I don't really know how to answer that question. Whether you believe in a soul or not, I suppose, would be a question of your religious beliefs and how you understand religious beliefs. What I would say is, practically speaking, um, if you want to consider the soul to be the thing that makes a human being have value and have relevance and have importance, either within the eyes of your supreme being, God or Allah or whatever it might be, or with relationship to one another, then it's absolutely, in my opinion, the case that every human being has that equal value and equal importance. And value is not something that can be, by any means, right, is not something that can be measured in the same way a soul can be measured from a personal perspective. You either have it or you don't. No one person is more or less valuable than anybody else, at least in the most, literal sense. People may have more value in certain circumstances. For example, if I'm suffering a heart attack, then I'm definitely thinking to myself, a doctor to me in that moment is more valuable than a gardener. However, in the most fundamental sense, within either the eyes of the supreme being or the eyes of the law or the eyes of one individual to another, at its core level, every human has the same value and the same inherent worth. And if you want to call that value and that worth a soul, then I think more power to you. Um, Again, who is they, Travis Lundy? I speak for myself. I speak for my own opinions. Many, again, the term soul, that strikes me as having religious context. I would use the term immortal idea, which is a more Masonic way to describe it. But if, in terms of what you believe about the internal value of man, I think Freemasonry, in its philosophical understandings, would always say all men are equal, and should be treated equally, should be treated as brothers, and we should look beyond the narrow limits of particular institutions. Yeah, a lot of people agree. Uh, I don't know what that means, the man known as JR. Everyone is worth, I mean, everyone in some way, their worth is beyond measure, right? I was going to say worthless, but that's the wrong way to put it, obviously. Everyone has a level of worth that is equal and cannot be measured. I mean, I'm worth more than half a shekel. I'm worth more than half a dollar. I'm worth more than $1 million. I'm worth more than $10 million. And so are you. And so is everybody watching this, right? Our value cannot be described within monetary terms. Um, what do you mean by the matrix concept? At Aku? Achu? Do you mean the idea that we're all in a simulation? I mean, maybe we're all in a simulation, but I don't think it matters, right? Whether we're in a simulation or not, even if we were to leave the simulation and go into another plane of existence, there's no evidence that that plane of existence would be any more correct than this or any more real than this one, right? How do we know that's not also a matrix? And then there's another level. At the end of the day, whatever this reality is, it's the reality in which we live and the reality in which we operate. Therefore, we have a responsibility to make it the best reality we can. Um, uh, well, I mean, but that doesn't, well, that's just a mistake, say what you mean, right? In the sense that, I mean, if somebody kidnaps me and sells me into slavery for $5 million, it doesn't mean my worth is $5 million. I'd probably get $20 to me if I was lucky, to be honest. But that doesn't mean my worth is $5 million. It just means that people are very foolish and do bad things. That doesn't reflect my actual value. Um, No, user, Masonic rituals do not manifest anything. It's not about manifesting lottery wins or money or anything else. There's two ways to develop bonds of brotherhood: shared experiences and shared knowledge. That is the purpose of Masonic rituals. So if they manifest anything, they manifest brotherly love. Uh, I mean, I would say if you're playing the lottery for fun without the expectation of winning, it's fine. If you're playing it because you expect to win or you're trying to pay your rent or whatever it is, then that's where it becomes a scam. Uh, I mean, people would give me, I mean, if I was ever sold into slavery, good luck getting anything more than $20 for me. I'd be a pain in the butt. I don't stop talking. I'm lazy. No one wants to purchase me, that's for sure. I'm ugly, so you have to look at my ugly face. Um, well, I mean, it's not about rewards either. I would just say it's about value. It's about personal value, right? And when it comes to human value, you can't really put a price tag on it. At least you shouldn't be, that's for sure. Harry Hawk. So I try my best to stream at Monday through Fridays, 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. And then if I'm having a special stream, I try to post about it. If I'm traveling, however, then I'm very often not able to stream. However, the best way to know what I'm up to, Harry Hawk, is make sure when you subscribe to my channel, you turn on the notification bell. That way, whenever I'm streaming, you get a notification either that I am streaming or I have streamed or I have posted something. Um, and also follow me on social media. That way, you'll know if, for example, I'm traveling, and if, for example, I can't make it on to a regularly scheduled stream. Um, yes, organ donation is incredibly important. Make sure, in my opinion, and I do think it's the Masonic thing to do for whatever it's worth. Um, Please make sure that you um, are an organ donor, and that means, for example, putting it in your will, letting your estate know you want to donate your organs. And in Canada, you can, when you're getting, for example, either a driver's license or a health card, you can make sure to mark off that you want to be an organ donor. There's also living organ donation, for the record. Some people can take advantage of or provide that to others who need it. For kidneys, for example, you can look into that as well. There you go, Dream Seeker. Organ donations go a long way, and you don't always know what will be donated, right? What actually is necessary, um, in terms of what somebody may or may not need. So make sure, if possible, in my opinion, being an organ donor is the Masonic thing to do. There's lots of ways to do it. I think the most important thing, though, is have it in writing and have it in your will, and talk to your estate and your estate planner about it. Make sure that they know that you want to be an organ donor. Well, user, you've been watching way too many foolish videos on X and Twitter. You don't know what you're talking about. And good for you, say what you mean. I've donated blood several times. It's a really great process. It's something I actually enjoy doing. It's kind of a fun way to spend a morning. I would always go, I would get a cup of coffee. Well, I'd go donate blood, then I'd have a cup of coffee, a couple cookies, some snacks. It was like a relaxing day to kind of start the day and to remind yourself, right, that you're part of the community. You have a duty to the community. I mean, I sometimes mention that I'm disabled. It's not something I bring up all the time. It really depends on the context. I will talk about it in a Masonic context, in that some people think you can't join Freemasonry if you're disabled. So I'll talk about why that's not the case. And I'll use myself as an example. Well, Dream Seeker, I would say there may still be some organs that are good. At the end of the day, though, it's not up to, what I'd say is it's not up to you to make that decision, right? If you want to donate your organs or not, that's your decision. But the use of those organs, the value of those organs, that's really something a doctor can determine exclusively. So, my opinion, for whatever it's worth, is if you do want to donate your organs, you put it in your will that you want to donate your organs and talk to your estate planner. And then if, the hopefully not for many decades, but sooner or later, if it comes to that, your organs are up for donation, the doctors can decide if you're able to donate them or not donate them at that point. So it's kind of like when I tell people don't prejudge if you can be a Mason. If you're interested in joining, start the process and see what happens. I would say the same thing with organ donation. Don't prejudge. If you want to do it, make your wishes known and see what happens. Let the doctors decide. Although having said that, you bring up a really good point, right? Which is, and I talk about this too in Freemasonry, right? When I talk about having a responsibility to take care of ourselves, it's not exclusively about taking care of ourselves for our own well-being. It's also about taking care of ourselves so we can be of benefit to others, right? So, for example, by smoking, if you damage your organs through smoking, you are, as a consequence, limiting your ability to help others because now those organs cannot be used for others who may need them. Not saying you should or shouldn't smoke or whatever it is, it's completely up to you. However, I would just say, again, always keep in mind that by taking care of ourselves, we are therefore in a better position to take care of others. And I've talked about that a lot of times in the past, actually. When I've talked about Freemasonry, and one of the things that Freemasonry teaches us is through a well-regulated and prudent course of discipline, we are able to not only exert our talents to help others, to help ourselves, we're able to help our communities and our neighbors and our fellow Masonic brethren. And that's very valuable as well. I don't think, to my knowledge, user, and for the record, I'm not a expert. I don't believe any religion does not allow or precludes you from, quote unquote, getting into heaven without all your organs. Now, I could be wrong. I don't want to speak for every religion. That's just been my knowledge. I was born without my legs, Harry. I never had them. So, Mr. Courtney, I mean, I definitely think we're getting to a point, and CR King, you can LOL, but that's stupid because I definitely think we're getting to a point where we, within Freemasonry, may have virtual lodges. We're actually getting there now. There is a lodge in the metaverse, for example, and there are some internet lodges that are forming. I think it's valuable to consider how we want to make it work. I've never smoked weed. Actually, CR7 King, I've never smoked weed in my life, either on stream or off stream, so I don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I can say, I might as well bring it up now, just because I don't know if it's going to happen or not yet. Haven't really talked about this on the stream. I may be donating my kidney to somebody. I still don't know if it's going to happen for sure. I'm in the process of getting tested. There's a lot of tests that go into kidney donation. I got my blood work tested and everything came out, to my knowledge, swimmingly. All of my numbers were within acceptable levels. Iron's good. Hormones are good. I guess whatever needs to be good is good. But there's still ultrasounds. There's still a ton of testing. We don't know if it's going to happen or not yet. But I am in the process of potentially donating a kidney. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I would say, by the way, if you know of anybody who may need a kidney donation is something that does exist. You can be a living organ donor. There's lots of information about it online. As I go through the process, I'll keep people informed about it. And how it operates. There's still no guarantees. I want to make that clear because there's still a lot of things that go into it, but we shall see. I do not. All right, CR7 King. I'm going to put you in a timeout in a second, I think. Rodolph, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't dance in my chair or I don't dance out of my chair. So, no, I'm not going to be dancing. I have no rhythm at all. So you're on your own. We're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to see who joins. By the way, I mentioned this before, but March 28th, 2026, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'm going to be holding a special, Square Incomes Promotions is going to be holding a special event at the Windsor Masonic Temple. We're going to be holding a community services fair. We're actually going to have there in the Kidney Foundation will be present. We're going to have blood services. We're going to have police. We're going to have a lot of different community sources available to talk about the civic and civil services located within Essex County, both Windsor and the entire Essex County region. People from Detroit, people from Windsor, please attend if you can. Dream Seeker, if you can make it out, I'd love to see you there. I finally got to get you that coin I still owe you, but it'd be really fun to see people show up for it. Learn about what's available. You know, we as Masons, we are part of our communities. We are part of our communities. We are part of our cities. We should care about, for example, we should care about the services within our communities. We should support them. We should use them. We should know of them. You know, all of that stuff is incredibly valuable and incredibly important. And holding a community services event where we have police services, potentially fire services, blood donation, kidney services, CHIP program, all that stuff in one location for the community to meet, I think is incredibly important. So children cannot join. You have to be, depending on the jurisdiction, either over 18 or over 21. Goodbye, Rodolph. Having said that, certainly it wouldn't hurt to talk to high school students about Freemasonry because eventually they'll be 18 or 21 and they can join. I would say, though, it might be better if it's actually demole that goes into high schools, and I'm sure many do. Right? Demole is for young men ages, if I recall correctly, 9 to 21. I might be getting the ages wrong. It might be 11 to 21. And by the same token, there's Rainbow, which is for young women ages 9 to 21. So there are no children joining Freemasonry. There's also nothing to do with Freemasonry and Epstein, which I assume is what you meant when you said Einstein user. The two of them are not connected. What's going on? No filter. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being everybody watching this. Please don't forget, if you're new to this stream, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I would truly, truly appreciate it. I hope you're all having an excellent, excellent day. And we're just taking general questions right now, no specific topic. Just waiting to see who wants to join and hang out and chat about whatever it is. I don't know if I called you stupid on the last stream. I called other people stupid on the last stream because they were being stupid. I don't know if I called you stupid on the last stream. I did say if I gave you a timeout, it's probably because you were being stupid. So, don't be stupid on the stream. It's one of those things where it's my stream, so I decide who comes and goes. I mean, there are Freemasons, obviously, who go to college. Um, uh, when you say, I mean, there are even some Masonic lodges I've learned of that might be maybe meet on college campuses. That's where their lodge room is. But generally speaking, I would say it's not that popular because if you're in college, you're probably more than likely going to be joining a fraternity, right? More so than joining a Masonic lodge. So I would think there'd be too much competition. Um, well, then, no filter. Don't be stupid. There you go. Oh, I think it's because you told somebody on the stream to shut up. And I was like, don't be doing that, right? Not only somebody on the stream, but a good, regular viewer, good audience member of the stream. I feel like Jim Jones was probably a terrible person. That would be an example of a stupid statement, no filter boss. I've never heard that user, so I'm going to say no. I cannot imagine that would be the case. I mean, Freemasons aren't bodyguards. It's not what we're all about. We have nothing to do with being a quote unquote bodyguard. Well, then, no filter, that was a stupid thing to say. He is back, it does appear. Um, I mean, it's not available on campuses per se, at least in my experience. Now, certainly, if somebody is going to college and they're right over 18, they can apply to be a Freemason. More than likely, the Masonic Lodge will be away from campus, but it certainly wouldn't hurt to advertise what Freemasonry is on college campuses so that people know more about it and so that the college students are more than likely to join. I mean, we definitely need to start getting um, younger members into Freemasonry. I think that's a valuable thing for any organization, right? When you have people, when the average age of your organization is, let's say, 67, as I understand it is in Texas, it definitely would be the case that getting some 22, 23-year-olds would be helpful to the longevity of the craft. That's for sure. Well, Freemasonry is not a cult. I've talked about why it's not a cult on many different occasions. You can find all of the discussions about that on previous streams. So there you go. We're going to give this a bit more time, see who joins. Again, this is a shorter stream. Tomorrow is the 21st of February. A big part of the 21st is every month I try to do something special. I don't yet know what my plan is for sure for tomorrow. I'll probably start streaming around 2 p.m. I may just do a, stream marathon. I don't know if I'll go for the full 24. However, I may just go for a while and see how it goes. No specific topic today, Mr. Keeps. Usually on Fridays, I don't have any specific topics, right? Yesterday, I talked about the court decision in the United Kingdom, basically affirming the Metropolitan Police's new policy requiring any members of hierarchical organizations, including Freemasons, to disclose their membership, either current or past, within Freemasonry. I'm definitely going for 48 hours. I don't know if I'll go for 24. Honestly, what I find is usually for doing 24, it's kind of diminishing returns. Usually by the 12th hour, anybody who would join has already joined. Honestly, I've got better results from posting shorts lately, which are really picking up, YouTube shorts, as opposed to full 24-hour streams. I also mentioned this before, but I have been doing really well with comments lately. I could probably do 10 hours. I don't see why not. I'm not going to make any promises, but that's not a bad idea. Or maybe just go for as long as I feel like. I could do that as well, right? We shall see. One thing I was thinking of doing, though, tomorrow is talking about my YouTube streams, all the my push-up challenge streams, because every day I've done a different amount of push-ups with a different purpose and reason behind it. So it might be good to go through each day and what each one represented. Like today, I did 85 push-ups, actually 86, one for the lodge, in honor of or to represent the 8.5% improvement in mental health that comes from volunteerism. So it might be worth going through each number and explaining why it was, why we picked that number, what the meaning behind it is, and how we in Freemasonry can assist in that. For example, volunteering for your lodge, providing that boost to the lodge can also improve your mental health by 8.5%. That is all part of the push-up challenge. I've been getting a lot of great support from the push-up challenge, so it is very much appreciated. And we're just going to hang out a bit longer, see who joins. There definitely will not be a 1 a.m. stream tonight, but I will be doing a stream tomorrow at 2 p.m. So Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what tomorrow's number is. I haven't seen it yet. I usually at midnight they post the next one, but I'm 16 days in, so we're almost done. We're almost done. It's crazy to think I've done basically over 1,000 push-ups, that's for sure. And Dream Seeker, I hope you've got marked off in your calendar March 28th, 2026, and the 9 to 11 a.m. at the Windsor Masonic Temple. It would be awesome to see you there as we celebrate all the different services, civic and civil services within Windsor and within Essex County. Well, the golden ratio in Freemasonry is the same as the golden ratio outside of Freemasonry. I used to know what it actually was. It's like 1.6 something or other. It's that, I used to be able to do this. It's when A is to B. I'm looking it up to get it exactly right. It's when A plus B is to A as A is to B. So if you have if you have a line and you segment the line so that the ratio of A to B is the same as the ratio of A plus B to A, that is the golden ratio. It usually comes out as 1.61. It was first recognized by Euclid and considered a divine proportion. It's when, I've given this example a million times. I've always said my supreme being is represented as the supreme. So my supreme being is the rational nature of the universe as expressed through geometry. Certainly, in that case, you could argue the golden ratio is one such geometric example of that supreme being, right? It's 1.618033, or I guess you could say 0.618033. Well, the golden ratio is important to Masonry because it's an example of architecture and geometry, right? It's a ratio very much used very often in architecture, and it's an example of beauty in architecture. When you're developing a building, you may create proportions based on the golden ratio, quote unquote. And so as a consequence of that, Freemasonry considers it important in the same way we consider any examples of geometry important. We evolved, or we grew out of stone masonry and stone Masonic guilds. Stone masons, operative masons, relied upon geometry and geometric principles like the Pythagorean theorem or the golden ratio when building cathedrals, pyramids, any other structures. It also is an example of beauty, and Freemasons celebrate wisdom, strength, and beauty. Beauty as represented by order and symmetry within the universe. It is part of the Fibonacci spiral, yes. Joe Gator, we got this again. I never had to sacrifice my legs. If you believe that, then you're a stupid person without question. um, if you believe I had to sacrifice my legs. Freemasons are not covetous. That's not what Freemasonry is all about. Freemasonry is actually one of the things we're instructed or taught about is the value of supporting and helping others. Um, and so, yeah, it is incredibly important that Freemasons are not covetous of what others have, but rather is respectful of what others have. And, at the end of the day, I think there's a really stoic connection to Freemasonry in how we treat other people, right? Which is, if somebody achieves something or acquires something, fame, money, fortune, influence, and let's say you feel that they achieved those things through improper or unfair means, you should not be covetous of them because they got them through unfair means you would not want to do. So why would you be covetous of that? You would not want to get anything through unfair means. And if they got them through proper or honest ways, then you also should not be covetous because they got them honestly, and you should celebrate that. Either way, you should not be covetous of what they have, is the point. Um, so yeah, there is no Reddit story, just people being stupid. There's some weird and stupid thing happening where people are claiming I sacrificed my legs to be a Freemason. It's stupid and it's dumb and it's just people trolling. I mean, well, no. I mean, some Freemasons are poor, some are middle class. I mean, I don't know. When you say can Freemasons be poor, Freemasonry doesn't judge anybody based on how much money they have in their pocketbook or in their bank account. That's not what Freemasonry is about. Um, I mean, certainly Roy the Human Billboard, I think that the contributions of the Islamic scholars and the Muslim faith or Muslim scholars throughout history, including to science and geometry, have been greatly overlooked. And it's not something even I know a lot about. So whenever I think of contributions to science and geometry, my focus tends to be on, for example, Euclid and Greeks, as well as maybe Einstein, Kepler. It would be good to learn more about the contributions of Islamic mathematicians um, and scientists. Well, I mean, in order to be a Freemason, there are dues that sooner or later you have to pay because Freemasonry is a self-funded organization. So if you're looking at joining Freemasonry, but you can't afford to pay the dues, I mean, in some cases, the lodge may, forgive the dues and say, okay, you don't have to pay, we'll cover it for you, or you can pay in installments or whatever it is. I would suggest, though, if somebody is homeless, they should probably focus on trying to get a job and trying to deal with their financial situation first, and then consider joining Freemasonry. Because if you join Freemasonry on Monday and then on Tuesday you get a job, you have to take the job, right? And if that job meets on the same nights as or if that job requires you to work the same nights as you are, the same nights as your Masonic meeting is supposed to take place, well, you're in this situation where you're no longer able to attend Masonic meetings, right? Better to focus on getting yourself in a comfortable, healthy state, be it financially or otherwise, before looking at joining Freemasonry. Having said that, Freemasonry is not going to judge you based on how much money you have or don't have in your bank account. Um, I do believe in evolution, and we do not get a discount on Teslas. Um, I will look that up for sure, Roy the Human Billboard. I'd love to learn more about it. Again, it's not something I know much about. So, So yes, I do believe in evolution. And again, I speak exclusively for myself. Many Freemasons may absolutely believe in evolution. Others may believe in creationism. Others may believe in a combination of the two. I can't say. I can speak for myself and what I believe, right? Um, which is, I believe in evolution. Again, I'm not one who, as a general rule, believes in or is comfortable with supernatural explanations for things, including the creation, including life and how it's evolved and how we find ourselves here as human beings. I can do handstands. Freemasonry is a civic or community organization that has existed for over 300 years. So there you go. It's been around since over 300 years. But think about it like a civic club or community organization. No different than a Rotary or an Elks or a Moose. The difference is its age, again, over 300 years, its size, it's the largest, and the fact that it has unique sets of rituals and ceremonies that create bonds of brotherhood through shared experiences and shared knowledge. I've heard of penguins, but I don't follow, at least to my knowledge, I don't. There's been a penguin who's been on this stream before. I don't know if it's the same one, like who's been in the chat. I have to take a moment though, because I have to go to the washroom like crazy. I promise this will be a quick washroom break. I'm going to give you guys my co-host, if I could. You can name him if you want. Just be nice to him. This is a moose. I'll be back in one moment, and then the one above, I will answer your question, I promise. But boy, I have to go to the washroom. Okay, sorry about that. Um, that's right, the most Canadian co-host. The core idea behind Freemasonry, every Mason has to decide that for themselves. I mean, what's the core idea behind getting together with your friends and going out on a Friday night, other than you enjoy their company, right? And you could argue at its core, that's what Freemasonry is. It's a club. Why join a club? Because you want to hang out with people you enjoy, whose company you enjoy. Um, for me personally, the core idea behind Freemasonry is that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Now, whether you agree with that or not, some would say to make good men better. I'm not a huge fan of that. I mean, ultimately, though, it's about being part of something bigger than yourself, which is a human desire that we feel since, we're on the playground and we are requesting, we're starting our own clubs and groups. There are no such thing as real Freemasons. Gicket? I can't pronounce that. It's either you're a Mason or you're not. There's no such thing as real and fake. I mean, Well, let me rephrase that, because in the way you say it, there's definitely clandestine Masons and legitimate recognized Masons. I wouldn't call it real Freemasons. I'd say recognized Freemasons. There are no recognized Freemasons who are Satanists or satanic. Saren, no, Freemasonry is not a religion. Worship belongs in a religious space. There's churches, mosques, synagogues, circles, temp- temples, Buddhists, whatever it is for that. Freemasonry occupies a civic or community space, which is very different. We are not a religion, and we are not religious. Some Masons may worship, they may be Christian, they may be Jewish, they may be Hindu, they may be Sikh, but that's a different thing. Well, we do not worship Saturn. Freemasonry does not worship anything. We're not a religion. It's like a club or an organization. The one above all, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons as to why. There's conspiracy theories. First of all, many different very bad leaders throughout history have found it convenient to target Freemasons, because if you are trying to gain power or control, one of the things you're going to do is create an enemy, which you have to then destroy. And you get people on your side by doing so, and by creating a group on whom you can blame problems of individuals. So Hitler did that with Freemasonry. Leo Taxil did that with his hoax. Also, it's entertaining. People like conspiracies. People like to feel like they're in the know. People like to create and develop conspiracy theories. And a big part of that is through social media, right? It's more fun to look up videos of Freemasons and conspiracies around Freemasons, way more so than people will enjoy, for example, learning the truth about Freemasonry, which is it's a club or an organization. That's not fun. That's not interesting. That's not exciting. However, false and nonsensical information about, for example, Freemasons sacrificing children, which we don't do, is more interesting to read about. It's going to get you more views on Twitter. It's going to get you more, a greater degree of interest within Twitter spaces. And then it gives people who are struggling in their lives an excuse to not focus on their own problems, and instead, it'll give you the illusion that you're somehow contributing to making the world a better place by posting a bunch of nonsense. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a codependent relationship with conspiracy. There's so many, Harry Hawk. Anything from the idea that it's a Jewish organization or a Jewish cover organization, which it's not, through to the idea that we're harming people, which we're not, through to nowadays in 2026 that we're involved with the Epstein Island stuff, which Freemasonry is not, through to the idea that there's a single governing entity for all of Freemasonry within the world, and anything in between, through to the fact we worship, Satan, which we don't, or that we have any type of worship, which we don't, except through to the fact that it's a Saturnian death cult, which we're not. Many other examples of that. I'm going to call you Skirit because I can't pronounce that. Probably, for example, knows many of these conspiracy theories, although I'm sure in his mind he doesn't consider them conspiracies. He considers them real, but that's because he's a foolish person. We shouldn't be hazing people. I'm not going to say hazing has never happened within Freemasonry. In the same way, I'm not going to say hazing doesn't happen in almost any different group organization. I remember when I used to work I worked in a jail. I remember some of the correctional officers telling me that back in the day when people would first become correctional officers, there was all sorts of hazing that went on that doesn't anymore. What I can say is I've never seen any examples of hazing in my 20 years of Masonic experiences. That's a big conspiracy theory, Magpie Malone. It's one of those things where what can you do, right? People are going to believe what they're going to believe. Very often they choose to believe it because it makes them feel better, but it ultimately is very often very harmful to them and to Freemasonry. Harmful to them because they're able to develop a codependent relationship. meaning they end up not focusing on their own problems within life because they've decided instead they want to focus on the problems like conspiracy theories, right? I don't have time to worry about my drinking or drug use or mental health problems because I'm trying to take down a global conspiracy involving Freemasons. And that's more important than dealing with my own problems, right? It's really is a codependent relationship. That is not true. There is no such thing as an elite member. There are different offices and ranks, but no office or rank is an elite member. No, Raj of God. If you did that, you were scammed and you should contact the police. Um, well, that's cool that your uncle was 33rd degree magpie. Again, 33rd degree, it's an honorific degree. However, it doesn't make you an elite member. The highest degree in Freemasonry is the 3rd degree, um, or the Master Mason degree. No higher than that. Well, that's called frequency bias or spirit or um, it's called frequency bias or blue car effect. If you buy a blue car, you see blue cars everywhere. A lot of times you're not actually seeing any type of symbolism, occult or otherwise. You just think you do because you're looking for it. For example, every time any artist scratches their eye or covers one eye for any reason, immediately conspiracy theorists will argue, for example, that it's an Illuminati symbol, when in fact it's not. Illuminati hasn't really been in existence in any meaningful way for hundreds of years, or at least 100 years. There is no Illuminati symbol, so nobody. Illuminati doesn't exist. If you want to get the Masonic symbol on your license plate, become a Freemason. Go from there. Hello, Spirit of Justice. How's it going? Thank you for being here as always. I hope you're doing well. I hope, by the way, you are following along in my, push-up challenge. They take a lot of influence from Egypt, not exclusively from Egypt, but certainly Egyptian mysticism. Kemet, I'm not really sure what that is, but Egyptian mysticism, absolutely they do. And Freemasons have nothing to do with the Trilateral Commission. There may be Freemasons who are part of a Trilateral Commission. I have no idea, but it's not a Masonic organization. Again, if they were to ask me that, I would not join Freemasonry. If they were to ask me if I'm circumcised or not, that's a very stupid thing to ask, Loch Ness Monster. If I'm joining any organization and they're asking me if I'm circumcised, I'm not joining that organization. And if you think they would get people joining by asking that question, you're a foolish person. You do that, Raj of God. You start your own organization called Freer Masons. I wish you the best of luck. What happens in your gatherings? Well, it depends on the purpose of the meeting or the gathering. It could be an administrative gathering, in which case we are doing no different than any other club or group. We're discussing bills that have to be paid, education, correspondence, brothers that might be sick or not doing well, etc., etc. In terms of if it's a ceremonial meeting, if, for example, we are bringing in a new member, then there's Masonic ceremonies or rituals. I don't talk in specifics about them other than to say, as I've always said, within Freemasonry, there are no ceremonies or rituals that are against one's civic, religious, or familial responsibilities, and nothing that is dangerous, unsafe, unhygienic, or illegal. Beyond that, you got to join to find out. Well, the Loch Ness Monster, freedom in the term that you're talking about, it sounds like you might want to revisit the works of Janis Joplin, particularly Me and Bobby McGee, particularly the statement, freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. If you're so free that you do not need to follow any laws or pay any taxes or deal with any bills, I would say that's not freedom, that's anarchy. Part of my freedom comes from the assurance that those around me will follow certain laws, and will not just walk up onto the street and punch me in the face. And I reciprocate by following the laws myself. If you want to be free in the sense of zero law, zero order, zero regulation, I would argue that's anarchy, which is ultimately deleterious to freedom. For example, if I dropped you off in the middle of the desert, suddenly you don't have any bills to pay, any laws to follow, you don't have any taxes to pay. Are you free? Or is that just a different type of servitude? Faithful Mustang, that's a good question. I mean, I would say it's a 50-50 thing, right? I would suggest joining Freemasonry at a point where your moral flaws are so great that you're living an immoral life. Then no, I think at that point you should not join Freemasonry. I think you should focus on getting your own moral house in order, because part of being a Freemason is obeying the laws of the country in which you live. That would include acting with a certain level of morality, both to yourself, to those around you, and your brethren. And if your flaws are so great you can't do that, probably not the best time for you to join. However, no one is perfect. No one is a perfect ashlar. We are all rough ashlars. And what that means is if you are waiting until you're perfect to join Freemasonry, then you're never going to join. You need to, I guess, join at a time, like I still have moral flaws, obviously. I've been a Freemason for 20 years. If you feel that your moral flaws are of such a relatively controlled nature that you're able to act with a baseline level of morality and respect and decency and legality to those around you, then you can join, and then you can look at using the philosophical teachings of Freemasonry to encourage an even more moral life. So there you go. I mean, I don't think anybody can be perfect. I would suggest even Christians would argue that there has been one perfect person in the history of the world, and that would be Jesus Christ. Well, I'm not American, Skikhet, so I don't have a Second Amendment here. That's a political question. Please keep in mind, Freemasonry is apolitical. We have different members who have different political beliefs. Some will be pro 2A, some will be anti 2A. I personally am anti 2A. I'm not a big fan of bearing arms. I am not religious per se, but I do believe in a supreme being. I would leave because I'm not a fan of Andrew Tate. I mean, Harry Hawk, what you can do is get in touch with me through email. You can find me through squareandcompass.ca and go from there. And maybe I will share it. Depends on the pick. Everybody watching this, please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button if you've not done so already. I would very much appreciate it. Looney and Tooney, as in... Well, I mean, I guess it would depend on the context, CR7 King. I mean, if he's giving just go to squareandcompass.ca and you'll find the contact page. Squareandcompass.ca, all one word. It depends on the context. So Freemasons are not part of the Epstein files. I already talked about this a bunch. Freemasonry is mentioned in the Epstein files, but in a historical context. There's no indication that any current Freemasons visited the Epstein Islands. Trump and Epstein are not Freemasons. Well, I would never deny someone entry for being too perfect. That's not what I said, Yuri. It's clear you're hearing what you want to hear and not what I'm actually saying. Squareandcompass.ca. Squareandcompass.ca. But Yuri, I think you're the type of person who probably hears what they want to hear. I guess it depends on the context. If Andrew Tate were to come up to me and start talking to me directly, I'd probably press him on it. If he's giving some speech, I'm not going to press him because that's not helpful. right? Presumably everybody who's there already has made up their mind, and all I would do is get into some stupid debate with somebody who's probably not worth my time debating. There are many lodges in India, Saran. There are many lodges in India. Um, Came through, for example, Britain primarily. No, he didn't. CR7 King. He's not a Freemason. He did. People would always say he did this symbol. Apparently, he did that because his dad used to do that, and it was a habit. But people accuse him of being a Freemason because of it. It's a great episode, Homer the Great. I will say the idea of calling him bottom G versus top G when Freemasonry has the G in the middle of the square and compasses, that is kind of funny. I'll give it that. Well, Yuri, again, you're not hearing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you wanted to join Freemasonry, nobody's perfect. We don't expect perfection. We expect, I suppose, a baseline level of moral conduct, but we don't expect perfection. Rather, Freemasonry can help you maybe perfect your actions. Um, Homeless people could be Freemasons. Why couldn't they be? That's a silly thing to say. Now, it may be best if they're not Freemasons because they probably need to focus on getting their financial and housing situation in order before they become Freemasons. But that's not the same thing as saying they're not allowed to be Freemasons. That's very silly. That's an incredibly silly thing to say. Well, Saran, there's a few different reasons as to why that is, but I've always come down to um, the necessity that some people have to create a boogeyman as a way to avoid looking in the mirror and dealing with their own problems and own issues. So, if you are struggling in life, however it is you may be struggling, um, and you have to, it could be obvious ways of struggling, like you're dealing with financial challenges or you're dealing with emotional challenges, you have substance abuse issues. It could be that you are struggling, but no one else is aware of it. But however it is you're struggling in life, relationship is failing, it can be really hard to have to look in the mirror and recognize that you're messing up and you need to make decisions to change your life and the way you're living your life. It's much easier to create, for example, some type of boogeyman that you can focus all of your energies on. So that way, when everybody calls you out and says you need to deal with your problems, you've got the natural excuse of like too busy dealing with the Freemasons and posting a bunch of stuff online, or why should I deal with my own problems when the Freemasons are doing X or Y? Conspiracy theories are necessary because they distract people from their own problems and finding solutions to those problems. Um, well, I mean, if he's broke, he probably shouldn't be joining. It's possible some lodges may decide to waive the fees or waive the dues. However, I would suggest it's not so much they can't join Freemasonry, rather it's they should probably focus on other things in their life at the moment. Um, right? So going back to, uh, a good example of it is I've known many people who've had substance use issues. Very often, what they'll do is instead of dealing with their own substance use issues, they'll end up in a relationship with somebody else who has even worse substance abuse issues. And you might think, why would you do that? That's stupid. Well, they do that because then they've got an excuse to never focus on themselves or their own problems. They instead spend all their time trying to control the actions of another person and using all of that time and effort as an excuse to mess themselves up. Well, of course, I drink a lot. I'm with a partner who drinks a lot, but they'll not leave because they'll say, well, the partner couldn't handle life without me or something. Conspiracy theories about Freemasonry act in kind of the same way. Somebody has emotional problems, mental health issues, substance use issues, relationship issues. Instead of looking in the mirror and dealing with that, they go onto Twitter, find all sorts of conspiracy theories, and just focus on dealing with those. Because that way they never have to deal with themselves or look at themselves. They're too busy exposing the secrets of Freemasonry or whatever nonsense it is. You're not going to get the spaceship today, uh, Kai Jewel. You're on your own. You're on your own. Canada has become Canada. I think Canada's the greatest country in the world. Having said that, come one, come all. I got a lot of Indian friends. They're great people, and they add to the tableau that is, or the mosaic that is being Freemason, or being Canadian, excuse me. That is definitely not the case. Conspiracy theorists just lead crummy lives and rely on conspiracy theories as a way to never deal with their own crummy lives. Sorry though, no spaceship. Give me $1 million super chat, and there'll still be no spaceship, but at least I'll have $1 million. Would it make a difference if I was either as a Canadian or as a Freemason? Right? Freemasonry does not discriminate against, for example, people of different ethnicities or backgrounds, including Indian. I am not a failed Illuminati member, nor am I a failed any member. I'm a Freemason. Which, again, the fact that you say that tells me you don't understand what Freemasonry necessarily is. That's not been my experience. In fact, mostly they are wrong every single time. But the beautiful thing about conspiracy theories and why they're so hard, why they get so much traction, aside from the codependent relationship, is they almost never have a time frame. I've got a friend of mine who believes, for example, that the New World Order is coming to take over Canada, but he never puts a time frame on it, which means he never has to be wrong. Until eventually he dies, I suppose, and then I guess he'll say he's wrong, but, it's a whole separate can of tuna. Well, thank you, Saran, and thank you for being here. Freemasons do not worship themselves, nor do we worship Satan. Freemasonry is not a religion. And as for ranks, there are no lower ranks within Freemasonry. So you're incorrect about that also. I have no idea what owning dogs versus having kids has to do with Freemasonry. I would say I've known a few guide dogs and service animals who actually, when their masters, when the owners of the dogs would get invested in a chair, so would the dog in this cool little moment. Well, Quality Sauce, you are not a very smart person, but so be it. Unfortunately, it's not the situation where you can do anything about that. There are foolish people out there in the world, for better or worse. Having a soul and being a Freemason, I mean, one is not exclusive to the other. I don't know what that means. Every Freemason has a soul. Again, define soul, because that is more of a religious term. I would say, to me, the term soul refers to the inherent and unquantifiable value that each individual human has. And in my opinion, every Freemason has that. Every Freemason has an equal level and an equal amount of, whether you're a Freemason or not a Freemason, if you're a human being, you have within you a inherent value that cannot be quantified, but rather which is, equal between different humans and equal between humans and the Supreme Being. So I definitely don't think human value is quantifiable, certainly not by other humans, right? It's inquantifiable. You could give me $10 billion, and that still would not be an accurate reflection of my value as a human being or your value as a human being. $100 billion would not be accurate to my value or your value. Freemasonry understands that every human being is equally valuable to one another and to their supreme being. Now, the extent to which a supernatural entity or a religious figure, like, for example, Jesus, can adequately quantify human value, I guess, is a question for church and for religion. But I would say, for me personally, I do not know how to quantify the value of a human being except to say it is equal amongst us. I am no more or less valuable than any other human. What that value is, you can't really quantify it. At least I can't quantify it. I mean, I am a man, and there are unique challenges, or there are unique challenges that a young woman will face that I will not. That's certainly true, and they have to be more aware of. In my experience, though, again, knowing a lot of Indian people, I've not seen any examples that they are any less, at least my friends, are any less respectful to women than any other group or organization. The KKK did not start the Freemasons, the Loch Ness Monster. Once again, you don't know what you're talking about. The Freemasons started in 1717. I don't know when the KKK started, but it was much later than that. All right, the man known as JR. You're getting kind of weird. Don't be talking to other people about their personal stuff. Whether Magpie has a husband or not is none of our business. And as for the dog thing, I don't know what that's all about. I mean, dogs have been pets for centuries. You'll be fine. So you're being kind of weird. But the KKK did not start Freemasonry. That's 100% for sure. I have a cat. I don't have a partner. I mean, a lot of people will find that question weird because they'll say, Freemasonry is male exclusive. There's not. There's women Freemasons. I do know one couple, male and female, who the husband is a Freemason and the wife is a member of the Order of Women Freemasons. I suppose it's possible for two gay men to both be Freemasons, but it's not something I've seen. Whether I'm gay or not does not make a difference, Yuri, to being a Freemason. You can be gay or straight, either way. It does not matter. So I never say. Well, Magpie, I'm not sure what your issue is with being vaccinated. I'm vaccinated and proud of it. Yes, it is Red Shirt Friday. I got my red shirt on. I already remember those who are deployed. Well, if you're concerned with whether somebody is vaccinated or you should get vaccinated. I'm going on record saying getting vaccinated is the Masonic thing to do. You can disagree with that. That's fine. But caring about others through a vaccination process so you are not going to get others sick, or so you're not going to get yourself sick and require medical resources that go to others, I would suggest is a duty incumbent upon Freemasons. At least that is my humble opinion. All right, we're going to end this stream soon in about 5 more minutes. Please take a moment, if you're new to the stream, to hit the like and subscribe button. I will be back on tomorrow at 10 a.m. for some push-ups and 2 p.m. So please make sure you tune in for that. Consider doing a super chat, just 99 cents, and we'll go from there. What is the wow, Mr. Keeps on Ticking? About my streams or about ending the stream? It's been about an hour and 40 minutes. So usually I do these streams for 2 hours. Well, I'm going to just put some people in timeout for 1 second. I've been doing a pretty decent amount. All right. I'll leave it be for now. How do you get medical care? Well, I mean, you would get medical care as a Freemason the same way you would get medical care if you weren't a Freemason, by going to a doctor or a professional health provider. There is all sorts of evidence that being a Freemason ultimately improves your health by giving you social connections. In fact, the Surgeon General of the United States in 2023 wrote a report, which I talked about on the stream in the past, talking about the ways in which having social connections actually resulted in better health outcomes. It was shown that if you are lonely, that can have the same or worse health consequences than if you smoke or drink or engage in other unhealthy activities. Now, I'm not suggesting you should smoke or drink or eat unhealthy or anything like that, but rather just pointing out the value of proper, having social connections, having friends, having people on whom you can rely has been demonstrated to provide significant health benefits. And not only do those health benefits matter to the Mason himself, however, by the same token, those health benefits are important for the entire community, because the healthier an individual is, the less likely they are to require medical interventions. The less likely they are to require medical interventions, the more likely medical resources are saved for others in the community. When I talk about the value of being healthy, I don't just mean the value of being healthy for ourselves. I mean, every hour I spend in the hospital on something that was avoidable through proper diet and proper exercise, by the exact same token, it means that that's 1 hour that can be spent on somebody who ends up in the hospital for something they couldn't control and for something they couldn't deal with, right? You can be born with a health condition, you can acquire a health condition, you get into an accident. I'd rather medical resources go to those situations that were unavoidable or are unavoidable, as opposed to medical situations that are avoidable. Nice, Mr. Keeps. Well, let me know if you want that letter. Like I said, it shouldn't be necessary, because you should get a sponsor within the lodge to which you're going. Having said that, enjoy the Irish night. I'm sure it'll be an absolute blast. Let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear about it, and I'd love to hear how it goes. And who knows, maybe I can make my way to your, if you do join, your initiation. Can't make any promises, but we'll see. Thank you, Harry Hawk. Don't forget, if you want to know when I'm streaming, when I'm posting stuff, just make sure to turn on the notification bell. That's a good way to keep in mind when I'll be joining. We're going to give it another, let's say, couple minutes, but I'm happy for you, Mr. Keeps. I'm sure that will be awesome. And I'm happy for everything you've been accomplishing lately, right? You've talked in previous streams about you're quitting smoking, or you're reducing your smoking, you're being more healthy in terms of how you eat, etc., etc. Keep up the good work. You should be proud of yourself. I don't know what that means, but within Freemasonry, yeah, when you join, you need to have a couple sponsors sign off on you. Now, in terms of signing off and what that means, that just means you get a sponsorship. Now, you don't need to know any Masons to start the application process. Rather, if you go and knock on the door of the lodge and express your interest in joining, as they get to know you and as they get to discover why you want to join and what you hope to achieve therein, you will eventually, the lodge will assign you sponsors more often than not, or people will just choose naturally to sponsor you as they get to know you. Keep up the good work, Mr. Keeps. You should be proud of yourself. And I'm proud of you, especially because, again, you're not just doing that for yourself. You're doing that for your community. So keep that in mind. Jay-Z is not a Freemason, Yuri, boy. There was one picture of him supposedly taken with Prince Hall Freemasons. It doesn't mean he's a Freemason. I think it was at a funeral. But he is not a Freemason to my knowledge. At least there's no legitimate evidence that he is. So very sorry to disappoint. All right, we have got another couple minutes. Let's see if anybody else joins and has any more questions or comments. So on the 2010 Rick Ross song Freemason, Jay-Z directly addresses the rumors, rapping, "I said it was amazing, not that I'm a Mason." Um, so according to Jay-Z, he is not a Freemason. So there you go. I guess you can take it or not. You can believe it or not believe it. How do I do what? The man known as JR. I mean, just live? I don't know what that means. You just do it. You just, I don't know, live your life, become a Freemason. What I'd say is try to focus on the positives in your life. Your disability is your disability. You can't do anything to change that. But that doesn't mean you can't find more positives. So I typed in Jay-Z Freemason into Google. When I type in images, I see one picture of him with a bunch of Prince Hall Masons sitting in front of him, it looks like, or a bunch of Masons not wearing the regalia himself. I don't see any evidence of him wearing any of the regalia. So, nor of him wearing a square and compass. So I call baloney on that. I do not know what disablement is, but I know what having a disability means. I have one myself, and I know that it's possible, whatever disability one has, to still, well, first of all, to be a Freemason, but also to exist and live a very positive life. So it's just, yeah, there are challenges that come with it. You have to accept those challenges and just keep moving forward. I've got a few different medical conditions. I've got Kallmann syndrome. I've got no legs. It's not easy, but it's absolutely possible to still contribute, to be a Freemason, etc., etc. I do not know what poikilothermia, I do not know what that is. So MS. What I would say is, at the earliest stages, if you did want to join Freemasonry, what you can do is send an email to the lodge, express your interest in joining, express your medical conditions, and ask them if they can come and meet you in your place. And you just kind of go from there. Right? Might be the best way to approach it. I was born without legs. Awesome, Thomas. Many Freemasons have been in the military, including Prince Hall. That's very cool. Well, we don't know if they were all Freemasons, but they were wearing regalia anyways. They might have been Prince Hall Freemasons, which is a traditionally black Masonic organization. It was designed specifically or initially for African Americans or black men who want to join Freemasonry, but were being discriminated against. There are white Prince Hall Freemasons now. Just say there are black Masons, it doesn't really make a difference. But that's my assumption. It looks to me like it was a funeral. So it could have been that Jay-Z just happened to know somebody who was a Prince Hall Mason, right? Seems quite possible to me. And he just happened to be present during a Masonic funeral service. It's recognized. It's not affiliated, it's recognized, right? Recognition means, for example, I can visit a Prince Hall Lodge and they can visit me. So it's recognition. Well, that's one of those things that sounds good but means nothing, Yuri, but okay. All right. We are going to end this stream. I will be back on with another stream tomorrow at 10 a.m. and then 2 p.m. So be prepared for that. Thank you guys so much for being here. Have an excellent rest of the day. Thank you all for being here.